FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
With everything happening overseas, our foreign policy expert that so generously gives of his time every Monday, you can find him at DC International Advisory, DCIadvisory.org. Stephen Yates, good afternoon to you.
How are you, Dana?
I am doing well. I hope you had a good weekend. I don't think that Germany had a very good weekend. I was reading from Reuters. Chancellor Angela Merkel's Conservative Party suffered a defeat on Sunday in one of the North Rhine, Western German state. I don't know I don't know how well you've been following some of the elections in Germany and the battle over the austerity measures between Merkel and the conservatives and some of the other, socialist-leaning parties there. Is it too early to say that this is kind of a sign of some bad things to come for Merkel?
Well, there has been trends in Europe that have been going against conservatives generally. And it doesn't tend to just be about their ideology. I mean, if you look at the Sarkozy defeat, it wasn't just because he was supposed to be center-right.
Right.
And we do know that Europe increasingly seems to see a cliff out on the horizon and is racing towards it when it comes to management of its own economy and really in terms of its role in the world. They struggled and struggled with whether Turkey should be a part of their union. Turkey now is probably the only attractive economic geography on the continent. And so it's really part of a piece. I mean, obviously, German voters feel a lot of the burden of their fellow neighbors in the social welfare alleged utopia, where they keep falling further and further down and coming to Germany for more and more money. Now Germany knows what it feels like. I mean, we've basically dealt with this kind of situation for years, and when it's come to economic crises, who they've turned to bail them out? The United States and Japan, for the most part, the alleged sick men of the world, when it comes to a rising China and other powers that are supposedly the economic dynamos. So right. I think there's just a lot of confusion among German voters about where the solution allegedly lies. And they're falling for the temptation of socialism again.
Well, exactly, and that's we're seeing Merkel already kind of facing off against the president-elect over in France, Francois Hollande. And everyone's talking about the new socialist president and what this means for the economy in France and the battle over the austerity measures with Merkel. But one of the things, Stephen, that I have not seen any discussion of at all whatsoever is what the Socialist Party being elected in France, what that means for their foreign policy, because France has always been, at least when it comes to the Middle East and at least when it comes to Israel, an ally with the United States and Germany. How is this going to change, and will it change dramatically?
It has the potential to change dramatically, and one wonders whether French voters think that's what they voted for. I mean, you get the impression that in the socialist postmodern mindset that foreign policy isn't really a consideration. It's just sort of being who you are and being better taken care of just makes the world go round better. But there's really a risk. Number one, NATO is not the alliance it once was. There was an activist NATO when it came to the Libya intervention, but really, even though that has gone as well as a military intervention was going to go, it isn't the popular one. And the story is not unfinished when it comes to Libya. And France, of course, is very proximate to that. But I just think that they are so distracted from real responsibility when it comes to their interests at home. It's a bit of a stretch to imagine they would be even more attentive to their responsibility beyond their borders. And so on that basis alone, I think it does bode ill for France's role in the world.
Yeah, well, and considering especially the way the partnership between the United States and France and how each country deals with Israel, we are hearing from The Hill, this published just a few hours ago, they're encouraging Romney to go and visit Israel. Mitt Romney has he's enjoyed a personal relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu for a number of years, and they're encouraging him to go to Israel. Some are saying as a way to shame President Obama, who has never visited Israel. Israel in the entirety of his term. Is this likely that it would happen? And what impact would this have on the presidential campaign? If Romney goes and Obama does it, would Obama essentially be forced to go if Romney went?
Well, I have to say I have a bias that when people are running for the presidency in the United States, they ought to stay in the United States. Obama's magical mystery tour in the last election cycle was not something that I thought was helpful to a debate on foreign policy. He essentially gave a very domestic, polemic speech outside of our shores. I don't think that's the right way to go. I don't really think by comparison there's any choice between Romney and Obama when it comes to the relationship with Israel and Israel's interests being at stake. There's a lot of people that like to throw stones at Bibi Netanyahu, saying he's too conservative, heaven forbid. But in reality, it's not just conservatives and it's not just Netanyahu that are concerned that this president has left them out in the cold when it comes to their national security interests, which are never 100% identical with our own, but they're legitimate and they're theirs. And it's Netanyahu's duty to the voters that put him into office to be a vigorous advocate for them. And Barack Obama definitely has been cold to those interests. Really, we're talking about a president who sends his family on vacation overseas at every opportunity, who has not bothered to visit an ally. That's really kind of an amazing tale, but it can be told here. The other thing that's somewhat disappointing to me is that when presidents and presidential candidates go abroad, our public doesn't necessarily cover them that much, and our news media doesn't necessarily cover them that much. So on the substance side of a foreign policy campaign, I think it's better for Romney to be here making his case. Right.
Well, and speaking of leaders going abroad, especially during election cycles, although Putin, I think, has this well behind him. There's the story that broke last week. Russian President Putin, he's not going to be attending the G8 summit. This has been presented in the media as a snub of Barack Obama. Is that accurate to be interpreted that way?
Yes, it is. But it's also a perfect case in point of how we have an administration who is so ideologically wedded to the pursuit of a utopian world without nuclear weapons and believing that that will be achieved by the deal of the century with Russia's leader, now again, Vladimir Putin, that they were willing to compromise so many things, including moving the location of this summit away from the very scary NATO summit in Chicago to Camp David. And then Putin laughably says, no, I have to stay at home because I have to form a government. But he's not prime minister anymore. I guess he forgot that he's supposed to be president now and not running everything. It just sort of puts the lie to the notion that they've got a democratic system. It's essentially a one-man show, and he's doing it all from Moscow, including running our president around in circles.
Yeah, that was interesting how they were forced to move that, because you were going to have the NATO summit and the G8 summit basically back to back. Frankly, Stephen, I thought it would have been more fitting for them to have G8 there, and then maybe Putin would have been more apt to attend, because you have all of the communists and the anarchists and the occupiers pretty much one and the same that they're going to be there protesting. So maybe he could have gone out and said, comrades, and quelled the crowds. That could have happened.
Yeah, well, it would have made for good TV, and it would have made for good radio.
Yeah, there you go. Well, but no, I agree with that. It's and it's very interesting too. I've only seen that kind of reported in a couple of different outlets. No one's really focusing on the fractured relationship between this administration and, of course it is Vladimir Putin. But that being said, and the president has reached out to the French president-elect, who said he's going to be there at the G8 summit, even though it's going to be just like a couple of days after he's inaugurated. One last quick thing. I thought you would be definitely entertained by this, and you may already know. The president, when he was speaking just this weekend, said that Europe should have followed his lead on the economy. And they probably wouldn't have been in the position that they are now.
Holy cow is all I can say. Really, this is candidate Obama. Let me spread the wealth around. If there's anything about who's following whom, it's that there's a failed European ideology that most of Europe, for recent decades has moved slightly away from. Maybe they're tempted by coming back to it. But, I mean, really, President Obama, when it comes to encouraging people not to work for extended periods of time and spreading the wealth around, I think he's giving our new French president a run for money for title of adherence to dead European white men ideology. Exactly.
And I think he's desperately looking to put some space in between that as well. Stephen Yates, foreign policy expert, D.C. International Advisory, DCIadvisory.org. Stephen, as always, we appreciate your perspective every week.
Thank you, Dana.
All right. Thank you. Take care.